At my birthday dinner, my brother's son tossed my purse into the pool and shouted, "Dad says you don't deserve nice things." His mother laughed until she cried. I simply smiled, stood up, and left. That night, I canceled the car payment I'd been covering for my brother. By 9:05 a.m., the next morning, his car was gone from the driveway. That was how my birthday ended. Ruined by my brother, his wife, and their child. What should have been a calm family meal turned into a memory I'd rather bury. My name's Nicole, and I live just outside Denver, in a quiet suburb where life rarely gets messy. I'm 36, divorced, raising my daughter Hannah alone. Things aren't glamorous, but I've worked hard for stability. That evening, I only wanted one peaceful dinner with family. Instead, I was publicly humiliated by a child who seems to think rudeness is a personality. The restaurant was one I'd reserved weeks in advance. Outdoor seating, soft lighting, nothing fancy. Just good food and space for the kids to move around. Hannah sat beside me, dressed nicely, excited to finally try the creme brulee she'd been talking about all week. Josh and Tessa arrived late. As usual, their son Logan ran in shouting that he hated the place. No one seemed surprised. I greeted them anyway. Tessa offered a fake smile. Josh mumbled a hello and immediately ordered a double whiskey. Logan climbed on chairs, grabbed food with his hands, and the only thing his parents said was, "Go play." The rest of the table stayed quiet. My parents avoided eye contact. My cousins chatted about nothing, pretending not to see Logan's behavior. It was as if everyone accepted that this was normal, simply because Josh's wife was difficult. When the cake came out, just a single slice with a candle, courtesy of the restaurant, people clapped politely. I smiled, hoping to move on and keep things civil. But then Logan came up behind me, snatched my purse from the chair, and sprinted toward the pool. Looking straight at me, he yelled, "Dad says you don't deserve nice things," and threw it into the water. Tessa laughed so hard, she had to cover her face. Josh didn't even flinch. No one stopped the boy. No one told him to apologize. My parents fell silent. Hannah looked scared and confused. The rest of the table just sat there, pretending this wasn't happening. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and left without a word. No confrontation, no scene, just quiet exit. I took Hannah with me. I didn't answer calls that night, or respond to messages, but what they didn't know was that for the past 2 years, I'd been paying Josh's rent, $1,600 a month, and covering his car loan too. He'd lost his job, and I thought helping would give his kids stability. When I got home, I opened my banking app and ended it all. Stopped the rent payments, canceled the car loan. The next morning, my phone rang at 9:05 a.m. I ignored it. Then came the text, "Where the hell is my car?" No greeting, no apology. I didn't respond, but later that day, I drove past his house. That was only the beginning. Josh didn't stop calling. Voicemails, texts, even emails. At first, he sounded confused, then angry, then desperate. Not once did he say sorry. Instead, he complained that the car had been repossessed at 8:45 a.m., that he missed work, and that Tessa was furious. I ignored every message. On the third day, his tone changed. Suddenly, he remembered I was his sister. He sent a photo of Logan, holding a crayon drawing that read, "Sorry, Aunt Nikki," as if a picture could erase years of being taken for granted. What he didn't realize was that rent was due that same week. 2 days later, his landlord called me politely, asking if the payment had been canceled by mistake. I didn't reply. It wasn't my duty anymore. Then Tessa texted, acting casual, "Hey, can you send rent today? We're short this month." No mention of the birthday or the purse, just her usual tone, pretending everything was fine. This time I answered, "I won't be covering your rent anymore. Please make other arrangements." 10 minutes later, Josh called 6 times in a row. When I didn't answer, he started messaging our parents, asking what was wrong with me. My mom said she wasn't taking sides, but hoped I'd reconsider. My dad said nothing. By the weekend, another message came. This one harsher. You know we can afford this place without you. You stir really going to let your niece and nephew get evicted? You stir that bitter? That's when I realized they still didn't understand. This wasn't bitterness. It was closure. But I wasn't finished yet. Another payment was coming up. Their kids' private school tuition. Tessa insisted on an expensive charter academy they couldn't afford, and I'd been paying that too, trying to keep the kids stable. I logged into the school portal, deleted my billing info, and turned off autopay. It felt right. Not petty, just overdue. 2 days later, I walked outside with my coffee and saw the damage. A long scratch ran down the passenger side of my car, slow and deliberate, and a star-shaped crack marked the center of my windshield. I didn't cry or take a photo right away. I went back inside and called my friend Ellie. She told me exactly what to do next. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how things had gone so far, how people could drain your kindness for years, and then punish you for finally saying no. The damage wasn't random. It was a warning. Their idea of payback. They thought I'd panic, call them, and start paying again. I didn't. Ellie has been my closest friend since college. When I told her what happened, she cut me off mid-sentence and said, "You need to file a police report." I hesitated. I said I'd never filed anything before. It felt serious, final. But Ellie asked something that made me stop. What if it had been Hannah Sip's birthday? What if that had been her purse? She was right. That evening, I sat down with Hannah. She's been quiet all weekend, unsure if she could ask questions. I told her the truth, that I suspected Uncle Josh and Aunt Tessa were behind the damage. She nodded slowly and said, "You know Logan Set's mom told him to do it." I froze. She said that at the restaurant, when I stepped away, Tessa leaned down and whispered something to Logan. Something like, "Show her she's not better than us." Hannah had thought it was a joke, but now she wasn't sure. That confirmed it. Then I remembered. The restaurant had outdoor security cameras. I called the manager. Within hours he sent me the footage. It showed everything. Logan grabbing my purse, throwing it, Tessa laughing, Josh doing nothing. You could even hear Logan's line clearly. "Dad says you don't deserve nice things." I forwarded the video to Ellie. She didn't reply with words. Just sent me a lawyer Set's contact and said, "Dawn, Set wait." By the next day, everything started unraveling. Josh and Tessa were texting again. Not about rent this time, but about their kids' school. The tuition payment had bounced, and the school notified them that both children were now listed as unpaid. Their daughter's fall enrollment was on hold, and Logan's class assignments were removed from the system. They tried every tactic. First came the sweet messages. "Hey Nicole, there's been a mix-up. Can you fix the payment just for now?" Then guilt. "You are punishing the kids. They didn't do anything." Finally blame. "You are blowing this out of proportion. You are being cruel." I didn't answer any of it. On Sunday morning, they showed up at my door. Through the peephole, I saw Josh with his hands in his hoodie pockets, and Tessa standing behind him, arms crossed, like she was ready for a confrontation. I opened the door halfway, letting them speak. Josh started. "You could handled this privately." Tessa added, "We had a rough year. You always helped before. We thought you understood." I stayed quiet. Then Josh said it, the sentence that ended everything. "You really going to throw away family over a purse and a couple of payments?" At that moment, I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just done. I closed the door, locked it, and sat back down with Hannah, who quietly kept eating her cereal as if this was just another morning. 5 minutes later, I opened my laptop, and filed a police report online. Destruction of property, with video evidence attached. When the case number appeared on the screen, it became real. Filing that report felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross, but it also felt like standing up for myself for the first time in years. This wasn't about a purse or a car. It was about finally refusing to be taken advantage of. I uploaded the footage, the photos of my damaged car, everything. I expected a delay, maybe a call from an officer later that week, but that same evening, there was a knock at my door. 2 officers, 1 man, 1 woman, stood outside. They were calm and professional, asking if I had a few minutes to clarify my statement. They'd already seen the footage. What they needed now was confirmation that I believed my brother and his wife were directly involved. Then one of them asked something unexpected. "Do you know anything about a missing tablet?" I was confused. Apparently after our dinner, Logan had wandered into a private dining area, where a server had left their bag and took an iPad. The security footage caught him walking out with it under his shirt. I hadn't known a thing. The server didn't notice until later that night, and filed a report with the restaurant, which had already passed the footage to the police. Josh had returned it the next morning, claiming Logan found it in the parking lot. No apology, no explanation, just damage control. That incident had already flagged their names in the system, and now, paired with my report, it escalated everything. The officers thanked me for my time and left. When I closed the door, my heart was racing, not from fear, but from relief. Finally, someone else was seeing what I had dealt with for years. The next day, I got official notice. Josh was under investigation for contributing to the delinquency of a minor. The vandalism charge was pending, waiting on fingerprint confirmation. They were also reviewing the stolen tablet incident as part of a pattern of behavior. By Wednesday, my parents found out. My mother called, her voice tired, asking if I was sure I wanted to take it this far. She said maybe Logan just needed discipline, and maybe Josh and Tessa were just overwhelmed. I told her I didn't file the report because of Logan. I filed it because of them. My dad tried to play neutral. He said he hoped we could talk things out, like adults, before things got worse. As if there was anything left to say. That night, Tessa posted on Facebook, not using my name, but everyone knew who she meant. Her post read like a performance. Something about fake family, who pretend to care until they turn on you when life gets hard. Her friends filled the comments with support. "You don't need that kind of negativity, and your kids are lucky to have such a strong mom." I didn't respond, but Ellie did. One comment, short and sharp. "I was there. You should be careful who you lie to." It was the first time I smiled all week. But the next morning, I received a call from Hannah's school. Someone had phoned the front office, pretending to be me, asking for my daughter's schedule and what time she was usually picked up. The school didn't share anything, but they flagged the call as suspicious. The number wasn't mine, just a random local one. They recorded it and sent me the audio. When I played it, I froze. The voice wasn't mine. It was Tessa's. She had tried to disguise her tone, making it sound overly friendly, almost motherly, but I knew her voice, her rhythm, that fake sweetness she used when pretending to be polite. That was it. That was the line. I could tolerate the insults, the financial betrayal, even the vandalism. But pretending to be me, and trying to interfere with my daughter's school life, that crossed into something else entirely. I called Ellie immediately. She didn't hesitate. "Report it now," she said. "Don't wait until morning." I contacted the detective handling my case, forwarded the voicemail, and explained everything. Within an hour, an emergency restraining order was filed. Tessa was legally banned from contacting me, from approaching Hannah, or coming within 200 feet of her school. The charges were listed as attempted impersonation, harassment, and malicious intent involving a minor. It should have ended there, but it didn't. The next day, Josh showed up at my house. No warning, no message, just standing on my porch as if nothing had happened. He didn't bring Tessa or Logan. He wasn't angry or desperate, just looked lost. I stepped outside, but didn't let him in. He said things had gotten out of control, that their landlord had started eviction paperwork, the kids had been pulled from school, and Tessa wasn't coping well. He said he just wanted things to go back to how they used to be. I stopped him right there. I reminded him how things used to be, how I paid their rent, covered their car, paid tuition, and helped whenever they asked. I reminded him of the birthday dinner, how his wife laughed when his son humiliated me, and how he said nothing. Then he said something I'll never forget. She just wanted you to feel what it's like when someone takes something from you. I stared at him. That's when I knew there was nothing left to save. He didn't see what they'd done as wrong. In his mind, they were the victims, and my boundaries were the problem. I told him to leave and never come back. I gave him 5 seconds before I called the police. He turned around and walked off. No argument, no goodbye. That evening I took Hannah out for ice cream. I needed normalcy. She was quiet, eating slowly, glancing around like her thoughts were far away. After a few minutes, she asked softly, "Are we ever going to see them again?" I looked at her and shook my head. She didn't need me to explain. She already knew. The next morning, the detective called. The forensic results were back. The scratches on my car were made with a house key, the kind used for front doors. The fingerprints lifted from the area near the gas cap matched Tessa exactly. They were filing charges: destruction of property, harassment, and unlawful impersonation. A warrant was already being processed. And just like that, my silence stopped being politeness. It became evidence. The day the warrant went active, my mother called. She didn't ask how I was. Her first question was whether it was true that Tessa was about to be arrested, and if I had really gone that far. I told her it wasn't going too far. It was moving forward. She sighed. That long, disappointed sigh that mothers think still holds power when you're an adult. She said she didn't want to take sides, that things had gone too far, and that maybe this could have been handled privately. I asked her what part she thought was private: the purse in the pool, the keyed car, or the fake phone call about my daughter's school. She didn't answer. I didn't bother calling my dad. I knew what he'd say. That family's complicated, that forgiveness matters, that time heals. It's worse when people pretend to stay neutral, but still judge you for setting boundaries. They don't realize that silence is its own betrayal. Ellie stayed steady through all of it. She helped me file for a long-term restraining order, and sat with me when I met with the district attorney. When the officer called to confirm that Tessa had been arrested calmly, booked, and released with a court date, Ellie came over with pizza. She didn't ask for details. She just sat with me and Hannah, watching a movie like things were normal again. A day later, Josh sent one last text. "Hope you stir proud. You ruined our family." I didn't reply. Not because I was being spiteful, but because I was done explaining myself to someone who had never once defended me. I blocked him. A week later, I changed my number. The hardest part was telling Hannah everything. She had seen most of it unfold, but she deserved the full truth. Why we wouldn't be spending holidays with Grandma anymore. Why there would be no more birthday parties with Logan. Why things that used to feel normal were now gone. She didn't cry or argue. She just asked, "So it's really over, isn't it?" I told her yes, it was over. I don't know what happened to Josh and Tessa after that. I heard rumors that they moved out of their apartment, that the school didn't take the kids back, that Tessa was facing fines, maybe worse. I didn't follow up. I blocked, deleted, and let go. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like release. This year, I didn't plan a birthday dinner. Instead, Hannah and I went to the mountains for the weekend. Just the two of us. She made the playlist. I let her have ice cream for breakfast one morning. We laughed. We were quiet. We were free. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had something worth celebrating again. Sometimes I still think about old holidays. How Josh used to make everyone laugh at Thanksgiving. How we played board games after dinner, before everything turned sour, before giving too much became expected. I don't miss them, but I miss who I thought they were. Hannah's changed too. A little quieter, a little more cautious about who she trusts. I hate that she had to witness all this, but I'm proud of her strength, of how she stood beside me even when it all felt confusing. I think she understands now that protecting peace sometimes means walking away from people who thrive on chaos, that the hardest part isn't cutting someone off, it's realizing they were never really holding on to you in the first place. Not because I won, but because for the first time I finally stopped losing.